Before sunrise, two jackals surround a meal. Then something much smaller forces both of them backward. Hours later, hundreds of angry bees will cover his head while he tears into their nest. By afternoon, a venomous cobra will strike and discover that this opponent refuses to retreat. Before darkness, even a spotted hyena will decide that confronting him offers too little reward. How can one 12-kilogram predator disrupt almost everything it encounters and survive the consequences? The answer begins underground, before the savannah has produced its first alarm call. A cool current enters the tunnel, carrying information from animals he cannot yet see.
Smell will guide nearly every important decision he makes today. Fresh tracks cross the older prints left by jackals, rodents, birds, and snakes. One trail is fresh enough to follow, but the animal that made it is already underground. He moves quickly, checking only places where scent becomes trapped and concentrated. The trail ends beside a burrow entrance hidden beneath a clump of dry grass. His front claws are longer than those behind them, built to pull compacted soil apart.
He begins with short strokes, testing the direction of the tunnel before committing his full strength.
The mystery is not whether he can open the burrow. It is where the prey will escape.
Finding no visible exit, he returns to the entrance and increases the force.
Each stroke widens the tunnel without forcing his broad shoulders too deeply into the ground.
The animal below begins moving, and loose sand trembles beside a second hidden opening.
A gerbil breaks through the surface before the main tunnel collapses around it.
The honey badger reacts to movement before he fully sees what has escaped.
The chase lasts only seconds, because long pursuits would waste more energy than this prey provides. The capture is quick, hidden by grass, and followed by immediate silence. A small rodent offers valuable protein, but it cannot support hours of searching by itself. Within minutes, the meal is finished, and the hunter is moving again. A specialist might search for another rodent. This predator immediately changes the category of food. That flexibility is his first major advantage. Failure in one hunt never ends the search. The mound looks solid, but weather has already created a weak seam near the ground. Instead of attacking the hardest wall, he chooses the section that has already begun to fail. One powerful pull removes a heavy fragment and exposes the first chamber behind it. The scent of insects becomes stronger, and the digging immediately becomes more precise. Workers retreat deeper, while beetles and other insects rush toward the damaged surface. The badger begins feeding before the colony can seal the breach. But the disturbance is already attracting animals that did none of the digging.
A second bird arrives and waits for insects escaping beyond the badger's reach.
From the grass, a black-backed jackal recognizes the pattern and begins watching. The jackal does not challenge the badger. It waits for something else to escape. The honey badger ignores the observer because the richest chamber is still directly ahead. His digging does more than uncover food. It temporarily changes who can feed in this place. Then, a small lizard darts from a crack on the far side of the mound. The bat-eared fox, sometimes referred to as a jackal, reacts first, collecting a meal created by the badger's excavation.
The badger notices the movement, but the remaining insects are still easier to obtain.
He stays only until the exposed chamber produces less food than the next search might offer. Without defending the empty mound, he turns away and leaves its new occupants behind. The jackal follows at a distance. Has it learned to use the badger as a moving food detector? The answer will become clear when the next defended resource appears. A few bees could be searching for flowers. A constant stream reveals a nest. The entrance is too high, so the badger searches for another route below it. Recent decay has softened one root where the hollow trunk meets damp soil. He begins below the colony, where less wood separated him from the lower comb.
The vibrations reach the nest, and the colony changes from feeding to defense.
Honey is valuable, but the richer prize is the protein and fat stored inside bee brood.
The first defenders concentrate around his eyes, nose, ears, and exposed muzzle.
His ears remain pressed flat, reducing the soft surface available to stinging insects.
The protection is useful, but not perfect. He shakes his head because the stings still hurt. Pain does not end the raid, because the reward is now only centimeters away. One section of rotten timber finally breaks and opens the lower cavity.
He removes the nearest comb instead of attempting to destroy the entire tree.
The food is consumed immediately, before insects or competitors can take advantage of it.
But another animal has been watching the raid from beyond the tree. The jackal cannot enter the swarm safely, so it waits for the badger to move. Once the accessible brood is gone, the badger leaves the deeper colony intact. The sun is now a greater threat than any insect defending the tree. Continuing to search at this temperature would turn every meal into an energy loss.
Fearlessness cannot prevent overheating. Survival now depends on doing almost nothing.
Using an existing shelter saves the effort of digging a new resting chamber. His body curls tightly, protecting the face and softer underside while he rests. Outside, the animals disturbed this morning continue exploiting what he opened.
At the hive, bees cluster around the damaged root and begin defending the remaining comb.
The golden jackal searches the abandoned site, but finds almost nothing from the badger left behind. The next question is whether following the badger will eventually produce a better reward. When a cloud finally weakens the sun, the resting hunter becomes active again. He emerges carefully, testing the air before committing himself to open ground. A strong odor now comes from a carcass hidden beyond the drainage line. they can fly away. A damaged wing would be far more expensive than losing one meal. Strong jaws allow him to use connective tissue and smaller bones left by previous feeders. The jackal arrives moments later, confirming that it has followed the disturbance trail. A second jackal approaches from another direction, turning one contest into a distraction problem. The honey badger drags the most valuable piece toward a bush that limits access from behind. The first jackal tests the distance, advancing only when the badger lowers his head. The badger raises his head, growls once, and the jackal immediately steps backward. The threat works because neither animal benefits from turning a food dispute into a serious injury. But the second jackal uses the moment of calm to approach from the opposite side.
It grabs one loose scrap and retreats before the badger can turn completely.
Chasing the thief would expose the larger portion to the jackal still waiting nearby. He returns to the carcass, accepting a small loss to protect the greater reward. This is not mindless aggression. It is a decision about which calories are still worth defending. Soon the remaining food is too small to justify another confrontation. The day's greatest danger begins with a movement, almost invisible beneath the grass. A cape cobra rises from cover and opens its hood in a defensive warning. The badger does not rush forward. He circles outside the easiest striking line. That movement exposes the truth behind his reputation. Apparent fearlessness still contains caution. The cobra strikes first, but the badger is already moving away from the head.
He immediately changes position instead of attacking from the same direction.
A second strike reaches the loose skin near his shoulder rather than his face.
The skin shifts over the body beneath it, preventing the snake from controlling his movement. Resistance to some snake toxins improves his chances, but it does not make every bite harmless. Dose, venom type, bite location, and physical condition can still decide the outcome.
The monocled cobra strikes again, overextends, and leaves the side of its head exposed.
The badger closes the distance before the snake can recover its defensive position. The final struggle disappears behind grass and ends within seconds. Venom resistance did not win the hunt alone. Timing, footwork, loose skin, and caution work together. He carries the prey into open ground, where hidden movement can no longer surprise him. The meal is large enough to attract scavengers, so he begins feeding immediately. The same scent that attracted jackals now carries toward a seasonal waterhole. A spotted hyena follows that scent and appears beyond the open bank. The hyena outweighs the badger several times and could kill him in a committed attack. Running across open ground could trigger pursuit, so the badger remains beside exposed roots.
He raises his tail, arches his back, and makes his body appear larger than it is.
The hyena advances one step, testing whether the display is supported by action. The badger responds with a short charge, then immediately returns to the protection of the roots. The hyena has little to gain, no food in reach, and a painful bite to risk. This is the real power of the honey badger's reputation. It changes another predator's calculation. He did not defeat the hyena. He made the confrontation too expensive to continue. Across one day, every apparent act of chaos began with food hidden behind some form of defense. Digging exposed prey. Broken nests attracted followers. Defended meals forced thieves and larger predators to reconsider. The honey badger survives not because he fears nothing, but because he knows when risk is worth accepting.
Tomorrow, new scents will redraw the map, and the savannah will be forced to respond all over again.